time to listen to those survivor stories, and I want to invite our first speaker from Kigali, Mr. Honore Gatera, who is the director of the Kigali Genocide Memorial, to give us a hint of what happened in Rwanda during this time. He is a survivor of the genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda, and he now takes the floor to share with us his memories. Welcome, Mr. Honore.
Thank you very much. I hope that everyone can hear me from my home in Kigali, in Rwanda, the capital city, where I have been living for the last 20 years. I know I have on agenda my fellow Rwandans, Serge, who is a colleague for more than 10 years. And I know we have also Omar, who is also a fellow Rwandan, who is writing books about his story of 1994. And if you try to look at three of us, you will realize that we are people of a middle age, or even I would say a young age. And there is a reason behind that I will explain later. But initially, I wanted to begin my remarks by thanking the organizers of this event, Culture, Arts, and Beauty. And as we focus on peace in Africa, peace in Africa has been a challenge that at this moment, I personally, and I think it's a belief that I share with everyone, that it should be on our agenda. And as Professor Mumba said, peace is the way to go. Peace is the way to go because many of us here in the tiny country towards the Central Africa and East Africa, Rwanda, at our teenage age, we experienced one of the most horrible events, which is the genocide against the Tutsi. A genocide, when you look back, is originating from what Lumumba mentioned already. We've suffered, and he mentioned the sufferings of the past. The suffering of the past that led many of the African countries into doubtful times, whereby the leaderships that followed the colonial times and the periods before the colonial times did not really understand how this period is going to be managed. And many of those countries, including my own country, were falling into conflicts, were falling into wars, and in the worst case scenarios as Rwanda's in a genocide. And here, 25 years later, we sit here and speak, we sit here and talk, we sit here and look back and think, what was missing 25 years ago for Rwandans, who, by the way, as a country, as a nation, speak one language, are in the same country and have the same culture from north to south, east to west. You will not use your own language, but we use one and we can understand each other. The arts, the culture we have are the same. But in the end, a horrible event as a genocide happened. And then in the back of your mind, you sit down and think and rethink again and wonder what was going on. When initially I received the invitation from Helena, I remember it was almost a month ago. Yeah, I started thinking, we have a big African community over there that is thinking about their fellow Africans and the struggles that they go through. And they're trying all of us to bring all of us together so that we can discuss peace, so that we can discuss the way forward from what we endured and from what we are enduring now. Professor Lumumba mentioned the current situation in many African countries. Yeah, cases of Central African Republic, Cameroon, Mali, and others. And for some people who would abandon very quickly, they will say, it's very hard for this continent to have peace. However, from the perspective of people like me or my fellow colleagues from Rwanda, we know what peace means, and we know the efforts it takes to have a peaceful country, to have a peaceful region, and in the end, to have a peaceful continent. I'm putting it into these scales because I know it all begins with me. And it goes to the people that I see on my screen here. And then from this screen, it can go into a community, and later on, it can go to a country. However, we've seen many Africans or people like me, ordinary people, politicians, and other people hesitant to dealing with peace. Hesitant in one way or another, maybe because they don't have the tools, but most importantly, because they don't have that understanding. And it is a shame on us. I have to mention this because we are talking about history, a history that sees us in conflicts without peace more than 60 years after colonial powers, or even more than that or less than that. But we should be thinking, we as Africans, after the sufferings that we've gone through in the past, when colonial powers were in this African continent and destroying everything that was built on our culture, why are we failing to go back and look at the sources we had and understand that we Africans, with our rich cultures, there is something in common that we share that can bring us together more than it can destroy us. And this is what in Rwanda we've been able to, or we are trying to achieve. It's a journey. It's not something that happens today and tomorrow you are achieving peace or you are achieving the path that is leading you to peace. But we believe and understand that our culture, that our language, and that our community, if all together we go back and look at what brings us together, we can achieve peace by winning the issues that are actually separating us as a nation or as people. As I said 25 years ago, when I talk about 25 years ago, sometimes we always refer it to a generation, it's a quarter of a century. And when you look at someone who was born in 1994, a boy or a girl, now they are grown-up adults. And for the people who went through the genocide as genocide survivors, they remember that past as if it was yesterday. My colleagues will be talking about it. I know that Omar, for example, wrote a book about his story in Yamata, one of the churches. And when you remember that story as yesterday, stuck in your mind, and you are a generation that is going to have children, descendants from those who survived from the catastrophe of a genocide, the only thought you have in your mind is, this will never be the legacy of my children. This will never be the legacy of my grandchildren. Bringing solutions to the long-term sufferings that Africa endured due to colonization or due to the past, and then a very recent terrible moment we had in Africa due to bad leadership. The current situation is a bridge from the past towards the future, because the present is allowing us to prepare who we become and what becomes our communities and countries in the future. For us as Rwandans, we've opted to never remember what happened, to never forget what happened to us, but keep remembering it because it's a lesson. It's a lesson to everyone, from whichever side. If you are a perpetrator, if you are a survivor, if you are a bystander, it is for the sake of this nation that all together have to remember together, have to endure the consequences of what happened to us in the past together, and have to hold our hands together as we push towards a better future. It is very hard to practically teach different cultures, different people, how this is possible and how you can achieve it. But at the beginning, as I said, there is one thing that as an African, I believe in, and that I believe we share everywhere in Africa. Our cultures are rich as in a way, if we go back and look at the values that unite us as nations and Africans, trust me, Africa can reach peace. Our communities can live in peace because of how rich are our cultures, how rich are our traditions, and how in the past we were together despite the challenges we met along the way, along the generations, to reach the point where we are now. And doing this, it's not for my individual sake. It's not because it makes everyone happy. It's not because this is the way to go that makes everyone happy and cheerful. No, it is actually for the sake of the communities, for the sake of the countries that we do it, or that we have to do it. We all should be in a position of accepting to lose what we have, but others are benefiting from what we accepted to lose. And all together, we can benefit together. Myself and Serge are from the Kigali Genocide Memorial, which is one of the biggest memorials in Rwanda that commemorates and remembers the genocide against the Tutsi. We remember, but we have to educate. Even our motto says it, remembrance and learning. If you came to see us and visit us, and then you leave the center as you came in, it would be very shameful for me and for you, because there is a lot of lessons that we teach humanity if you are a true human, and particularly if you are an African, this is a good area to learn about what you can do now. However, we know that it's challenging for people to understand things at the same level, but we believe that there is a bit that we can share with fellow Africans, with other people, for us to understand that possibilities of going back to the source in our cultures will allow us to achieve peace. Hence, one of our successful programs, which is the Peace and Values Education, has been actually adapted and went to Central African Republic to be taught to the communities that were not living at peace. As you know, the conflict is still going on. And if you look at how this community is benefiting from successful stories of Rwanda, it will lead you to knowing that not Rwanda is only to give the lessons, but the lessons from Rwanda can serve in another country. What about the lessons from Cameroon? What about the lessons from Ethiopia? What about the lessons from South Africa? And creating this network and inspiring each other from our darkest past to the struggling present we have is the only way we can build a brighter future. So saying this is to try make sure that people understand that as this event means, our cultures, even our arts, is something that is beyond other things that we try to learn in our lives and try to imitate and try to get deep into before we even understand and use at the maximum what we have in our cultures and what we have in our communities. So to conclude, because I know I have my fellow colleagues who will be speaking as well, I have to say that a such event is very important. Such organization is very important. I'm very proud to see that outside our Africa frontiers, there are Africans who think about the success of our continent, the peace of our continent. And if we hold each other and make sure that peace is on our watch and peace is on our everyday business, I'm sure we can achieve it. Thank you so much. Murakoze, as we say in our mother tongue.